Everywhere around, there was only the wind whistling. All barks and yelps had ceased, giving way to silence. A silence that was harsh, filled with shame, the shame of having done nothing, said nothing. That morning, the men and the children had walked up to the bay as they'd been asked. The dogs, tied up but trusting, had followed them. This is a story I waited a long time to tell you, little Mary. A story I'll tell you today in solemn appropriation as a rite of passage. I will tell you what the men did. I will tell you the price we paid in our history, in our community. Our elders, I told you, had nothing. Nothing but wind and ice and the vastness of the land. Nothing but what they wove with their courage, their determination to be whole with the snow and the dogs. Better to scout, to track, to harpoon, and to bring caribou, seals, and salmonids back to the community.
I used to travel by dog team with my father when I lived in Kangirsuk. There were no snowmobiles or machine transportation at the time. I enjoyed traveling by dog team, as it was the sole method of transportation in our lifetime.
In the past, the husky dogs were the only means of doing our daily work in order to survive. If a man didn't have dogs, he could not go and set up his fox traps, check them regularly, or hunt for food within his area. Although men handle various things differently, they had one thing in common: dogs. If the dogs were bred accordingly, they were a major asset to their masters and could last their lifetime. If a man was a great hunter, he could even buy a peterhead boat because he had help from his dogs. The dogs would go back and forth daily to the fox traps. That's how a man got his peterhead boat, from the sale of fox skins. Even men from different camps would work together, and through their teamwork, would end up getting a peterhead boat. The husky dogs allowed us to be at peace with ourselves, providing us with the ability to hunt for food for our families, and knowing that they will alert us of any danger. We were able to spend a good night's rest in an igloo without worrying about dangerous wildlife approaching our camp. Those dogs were the best lifeguards. The husky dogs were really useful in their day. Even during a blizzard, the dogs would reach the master's desired destination without losing their way. We didn't need search and rescue for lost hunters because no one got lost. That is one advantage I liked. Really liked. Even myself, I've been through that, out on the land and got caught in a blizzard, and my dogs took me to my destination. It was good to trust, to know the dogs would see me through, in whatever situation, even on sea ice. When caught in a blizzard, the hunter didn't give instructions. Even myself, I used to be told to keep my mouth shut by the hunter I followed, so the dogs wouldn't lose their concentration in keeping on the right track. During a snowstorm, the dogs would go straight to the master's desired destination without any problem. The dogs had a built-in compass and didn't need the technology we use today, the kind that requires batteries. The dogs were even used to find seal-breathing holes. And sometimes a family in an igloo would get snowed over, leaving no trace, but they could even sniff around and find them, saving them from suffocation as well as hunger. For sure, the dogs have saved many lives. They even saved some people from drowning by pulling them out of the water. I have heard all these heroic stories before, but I've never experienced the last one. For sure, we wouldn't have survived without the dogs. We had to eat one of our 5 dogs. My sisters and I were just children then, when my father wanted to go to the ice floe edge, to a small island. My father killed one of the dogs and sawed off the end of the sled. We used to have a long sled, used the wood for firewood, and that was how my parents saved all our lives. I remember it clearly. When the storm was over, we continued on our way to the island with some leftover dog meat. When a man started to prepare his sled for a trip, the dogs were very happy and started to yelp and pounce around. After the leader of the pack had been harnessed and put in front of the sled, the others would follow and stand ready to get harnessed too.
Piyak nito ni limang kimmin. Tapani isukak tenu sana nok kamati lang ilong na lima kalong atawalo.
And they would stay put, without running, all over the place.
Sabi nga sudi tamaan inigiyaw kayaw yung nanigalati ni matwalo kung nasutin.
Flick the whip, say hurrah, and run toward that direction. To stop them, ow! I stop them when they don't go in the direction I indicated and run up to them. If they keep going in the other direction, just stop them, ow! I run in the direction I want them to go, and I say, ho ho, and then they go in that direction. Sometimes they just want to keep the same route, and then I have to crack the whip and say, hurrah! And finally they'll go the way I want. That's how we train them to obey our commands, with those simple words. Hurrah! Oak! Oak for us means to turn right. I can't tell you about that. Not on TV. It's my secret. Those days, if you had 4 or 5 fox pelts, you could trade them for supplies such as flour, tea, tobacco, and bullets. The dogs were the means to do these things, setting up trap lines, checking them, and shopping trips.
This was a life of freedom, with the dogs our only allies. Week after week, they pulled all loads, braved all weather with dauntless courage. They were proud, fast, gallant. Behind their harnessed teams, the sleds would sweep by, whips fluttering like spots of color in the canvas of a clever artist. The dogs knew the men. They never disappointed. They understood them, obeying their voices.
They
never gave up unless gnawed by hunger. We had to make sure every dog would eat. As a teenager, this was my responsibility. Once the head dog took over, today still I am impressed. After nightfall, hunters at peace would sleep because the dogs were watching.
Unnuami isumalugatik sinitta pammata khimmit kangiswa kalu lang mata.
If a man owned dogs, he was a very self-sufficient provider because the dogs made it possible for him to travel and hunt for his family. In other words, the dog team made a man. Even if it seemed like a boy wouldn't become a real man, as soon as he started owning a dog team, he became a great hunter and a real man. He even ended up helping his neighbors by providing transportation and food. The dogs were crucial to the Inuit before the invasion of civilization.
Came to kill the dogs.
That morning we were told to take the dogs up to the bay. Naive, worried, surprised, we obeyed, not daring to question.
The first time I saw that policeman, his face was stern and looked intimidating.
During the dog slaughter, the white man just went about it without any regard for the Inuit. I'm not saying it was all white men, but the police who were in the village at the time just went and slaughtered the dogs without preamble or forewarning. I've heard of some instances where they had told the Inuit to tie up the dogs. This hadn't been done before. The dogs roamed freely to keep their strength. But as far as I know, the white men never considered explaining to the Inuit the reason for the slaughter. They didn't ask for permission or gave any warning. As I've learned, in most of the villages, they just went and slaughtered. No, they did not say anything or object. Those days, the Hadlunat were very unapproachable and even scary to the Inuit. That's why the Inuit didn't do or say anything to stop them, or even voice their concern.
Those days,
the Hadlunat were very unapproachable and quite scary to the Inuit. I myself was very scared of them, so I didn't dare say anything when they started killing our dogs. When the Hadlunat first started arriving up north, they didn't treat the Inuit as their own kind. They treated them like garbage. They started out that way. I remember this one man in particular who would really mistreat the Inuit. The beginning of the slaughter seemed as if the RCMP did it. There was a policeman stationed in Inukjuak, but none anywhere else close to here. It seemed the RCMP gave it their all, but they were only following orders from the government. They took their job seriously, killing loose dogs. They had the authority to appoint other Caucasians in other villages to kill loose dogs. When these RCMP wanted something done, we had no choice but to obey. They appointed any available Caucasian, whether it be a store manager or whoever was available, to shoot any loose dogs, because the government wanted that. They didn't see the damage they did to our livelihood. Even if we got really mad at the police or any Hadlunat, we found them intimidating, and we would not say anything about it, even when we knew they were responsible for killing our dogs. That's how it was. Heart-thumping with rage, our only means of survival, killed, anger, but intimidation at the time. We couldn't do anything about it, although they were mere Hadlunat. This is where our dogs were slaughtered on the bay. We came down and it seemed the whole population was here, leading their dogs to their death, leading their dogs on a leash for the slaughter. Even the children came along with their assigned dogs. That was how it happened.
We have no choice. We have to kill the dogs.
I don't remember if I had all my dogs slaughtered. Probably none survived. Although I had tried to resist earlier, they had said it was better to kill the dogs before the dogs turned on humans, as they had been attacking people in other villages. That was the excuse for the slaughter.
They were waiting, weapon in hand, better to murder our dogs. The sounds of gunshots mingled with our little ones' shouts and cries. We were powerless, paralyzed, silenced, anguished like hounded beasts.
When those policemen came after, we were all on the ice. They started shooting right away, right? Yes, they did. We used to assign dogs to our children, and they thought they really owned the dogs and played with them. But the purpose of the outing was for the slaughter. Sure, and that's why it was so much more heartbreaking. Yes, although it was heartbreaking, we had no choice but to consent.
And a lot of dogs were out on the bay for the slaughter. I heard the first shots, and the dogs started howling until they got shot. I witnessed the burning of the dogs after the slaughter. It was a horrible scene, and I didn't like seeing it. On top of that, the mere presence of that policeman was intimidating and even scary. Every time I saw a policeman, they affected me that way. The policeman was rough on the dogs. Sometimes his shot didn't kill the dog, and they would run away with a hole in the stomach or elsewhere. What an experience.
We even led the dogs to the slaughter site because the slayers requested it. The dogs were used to us and went willingly. We put up a brave front, but our minds were seething with rage. It was heartrending and thoroughly depressing. For sure, some people didn't sleep well that night, thinking about their deprivation. We hid our regret. I don't remember too well after that, but the slaughter was a first of its kind, and it was a painful experience. I felt like I was handing over my life when I led the dogs out to the bay. Seeing them for the last time, when they were so trusting, going about the way they usually do, leading them with the leash to the slaughter site, I felt for my dogs. I think all the other victims felt the same way too, like they were handing over a part of their life to death. I couldn't think straight knowing that our only means of transportation was gone. Some dogs had been really dependable. That first slaughter was done by the employee of the Hudson's Bay Company, leaving the men who had come to trade with no means of getting back to their families. The 2 or 3 employees of the Hudson's Bay Company were the only Caucasians here at the time. They shot the hunters' dogs because the dogs were roaming around freely. Yes, those guys started the slaughter without warning and before the police arrived. They fired the first shots. There were usually 2 employees, but the manager brought his wife. The husband shot the dogs that belonged to the hunters, who came to trade their fox pelts, leaving them unable to go back home. Yes, someone got mad. I followed one man from another camp who went to appeal to the manager, asking him to finish killing the dog that he had shot. That manager just got mad and started fist-fighting when he was told that the dog he had shot was in pain under the building. He was asked if he could shoot it once more to end the suffering. He didn't like it and started the fistfight with the owner, but he was no match for that Inuk, even though they were the same size. Every time a dog was killed, the owner tried asking the manager to stop killing the dogs. But he never stopped. He continued to shoot any loose dogs. Yes, in those days, the dogs were the only means of survival for the Inuit. They really served their purpose. The Hudson's Bay Company was not the only organization in our area. People, such as government agents, teachers, and provincial government agents started arriving. The number of dogs continued decreasing because they were not tied up, as we had been told to do. The appointed dog killers used a shotgun to kill any loose dogs, at least in our village. Even the dogs that were hiding under a house would get shot. These dogs were very important to us because they were our only means of survival. Yet federal and provincial government agents were butchering them.
Ana, sila mitulik.
Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Get out.
The RCMP were the messengers for the government. The government plans for its country, and when they give specific instructions to their different departments, they have to comply. So when the RCMP were told to keep the villages free of loose dogs, they obliged. These policemen seemed like they owned the world. We wouldn't want to get on their bad side because they even looked brutal, and they did their jobs to the hilt. The Inuit were really intimidated by the newcomers, thinking they were super beings. The white man had brought things they had never seen, including steel implements. They seemed awesome, even regal, and so therefore intimidating. And because of that, the Inuit didn't dare oppose them. The Inuit may have been able to stop the slaughter, but the white man had all this new stuff and possibly had other powers. Because of this, there was no resistance offered at the time of the slaughter. There was a huge pile of dead dogs, shaped like a pyramid, on the ice to be burned.
Khimmit atawsiuttisutik halereelertitauyut.
The dogs, one after the other, were heaped in a pile, a tower of death. The police, pleased to be efficient, hurried to set them on fire. There were some of us who helped. This horrible cremation haunts me with bitter memories. Yet many have forgotten that they were savagely deprived of their identity, of their freedom.
Yes, they left right after the slaughter. We were told that they attacked and mauled people. That's why they were being shot. But in the earlier days, before the Hadlunat arrived, when a dog attacked a person, it was killed instantly because that was an unspoken rule of the Inuit. What really happened to us was that fine, healthy dogs were being killed for no apparent or logical reason. That was really distressing to me. Not just for me, but for a lot of other men. Because of that, our livelihood has been ruined and wasted.
They
said the dogs were ferocious. They didn't want the dogs mauling and killing people. Those were the reasons given. Those reasons are similar to the firearms safety program in force now. The firearms safety rules have reminded me of the reasons given for the dog slaughter. But I've been trying to remember when a dog had actually killed a person, and I've come up blank. Killed by a dog? Never heard of it. But I remember only one incident in Pavornituk, later after Inuit from the Makivik area moved to our camp. I remember only one person being attacked and killed by dogs. But it cannot convince me that the dogs are a menace to society. I used to sleep in between my dogs and was never afraid of them. I didn't agree with the slaughter because I knew my dogs were my means of livelihood and I could travel long distances using the dog team. When they said that the dogs were murderers, I didn't believe it. I believe instead that they supported the survival of people, especially before the arrival of the Caucasians. If they didn't have dogs, the Inuit population would have died off instead of increasing. The danger of having the dogs attacking people may have been only an excuse. I see it now as something to put down the Inuit, to take away their self-sufficiency. The Caucasians just wanted the dogs killed. Those Caucasians, those government people started killing our dogs here. At the same time, the snowmobile was introduced. Slow ones with speeds between 7 and 10 miles per hour, the first models. I was told you might be better off without those. Keep your dog team. But I really wanted to get a snowmobile because I didn't have to run beside it, and it could really move easily. They could run with only the use of my thumb and didn't need all the alertness of using a dog team. Those store managers promoted the snowmobile even though we had plenty of dogs. The speed and ease of the snowmobile was the downfall of the dog team and started the hatred for the dog. They do damage no matter what. Every type of transportation does damage. A lot of people have died using the snowmobile. The dogs have mauled and killed people, but far less than the snowmobile. The snowmobile has killed many people, maimed many people. The dogs have killed a lot less. The damage done by the dogs was overblown, but nothing has been said or done about the damage done by the snowmobile. That's the part I really don't like. The dogs have done a lot less damage to humans, and people complain about them for the few incidents. But they don't go on and on about the damages done to humans caused by the snowmobile. That's the part I really don't like. Nobody is doing anything about removing the snowmobile, and probably nobody will.
When I was told that my people would start getting snowmobiles, I couldn't imagine what a snowmobile was because I had never seen one before. What's a snowmobile? Why was he laughing? It's like he's enjoying the slaughter, I remember thinking. At the time, I didn't like Father Dion's attitude. What's a snowmobile like? I had no idea. And then the snowmobile was for sale, and some people purchased theirs. Some people had no money. My father got his own snowmobile that he had to fix when it broke down, and it took all day. He had to buy expensive parts. I felt sorry for him.
Snowmobiles are expensive and need lots of gasoline. When we used dog teams and would go out on land for weeks at a time, we didn't need to buy anything for them. Ourselves, we needed some tea, a bit of bannock, mainly tea and some kerosene for the portable stove, but nothing store-bought for the dogs. As long as we had some country food, along with some tea and some tobacco, that was it. Our supplies for a long hunting trip. There was rarely bannock, and we could easily do without. But when we ran out of tea, our strength was sapped, like the dogs when they ran out of seal fat. Tea is essential for us. I started raising dogs again, remembering my father's advice. He used to say, "Don't buy the snowmobile. Continue with the dog team." Those words kept coming back to me, and I couldn't forget them. His words of wisdom, saying the snowmobile breaks down and the driver could freeze to death out on the land. Don't use them. But I paid no attention at the time, just seeing how far and fast I could go on the snowmobile. Those machines were expensive, and the price keeps going up. It was our downfall.
White men sold us snowmobiles. We didn't have money to pay, so we had to barter with soapstone carvings, seal skins, and seasonal jobs. It took years and years to get back on our feet. Some never managed. Into alcohol they sank. For a long time, we couldn't hunt in winter. We had to wait for summer to harpoon from kayaks.
Masibot suta kayak kut naulin niya sa amin.
I feared what was going to happen next because our only means of hunting was wiped out. It was not a bright future. We were so devastated and wondering how we would go on. We didn't know what would happen next. The thought-consuming part of our daily lives was no longer. My spirit was broken because the dogs were the most prized possession of an Inuk man. They helped us to survive by getting us further away from camp to hunting areas since animals don't live nearby. We were able to travel long distances during those times. The issue of dog killing is very difficult for me to comprehend. The policemen didn't offer any alternatives. It seemed they just wanted to wipe out the Inuit, getting rid of their livelihood. I had a wife and 2 kids when they started killing our dogs in Kujuarapik around 1960, 61, and by 1962 all our dogs were wiped out. It affected the man a lot, stripping him of his ability, his hunting prowess, and his authority. It deprived the family members of going along for the hunting adventure. It deprived the offspring of learning how to drive the dog team, how to learn survival skills. The very core of Inuit life was abolished by the slaughter. It deeply affected a lot of people, not just the man, but the whole family.
Ako nakalala na sa 20 taon na ata. Hanuin niyo ako sa walang asibita.
After the slaughter, social problems started. They had too much time to think, and the future didn't look promising. That was the turning point of our lifestyle into degradation. The art of making homebrew had been in existence before the slaughter. The abuse of homebrew started after, and we began seeing inebriated people.
After the slaughter, there were a lot of drunks. I remember a lot of drunken people, and it terrified me. There was no law and order in our village. There seemed to be no one in charge. Everything was going crazy. There was chaos, drunk people everywhere, fighting, angry. The fights were horrible. There was wife swapping. That isn't the way to live. All these happenings terrified us.
I know I'm a long shot, baby, but with you, I'm a sure thing. Maybe the odds are against us, but odds don't.
The Inuit settled down and stayed in the newly erected villages. The white man had started the sedentary lifestyle in populated areas, and the slaughter helped to stop the Inuit from leaving. They had no more freedom and waited for government handouts, a totally different lifestyle. Back then, they just waited around for the monthly welfare. They were totally deprived of their freedom and felt it when they had no more dogs for a dog team. I don't want to lose my Inuk identity. I have always tried to keep the Inuit culture alive. I used to use my dog team even when I was the only one. Others have since started. I don't want to lose our culture, and the dog team is one of the symbols of our ethnic background. No one has ever apologized to me, not even once. I don't remember anything resembling an apology. "I'm sorry your dogs were killed" is a phrase I have never heard. Nothing was ever given to me as a replacement. I'm telling it like it is. I've compared it myself to the time of the Japanese War. The Japanese were deported from Canada. They were landed immigrants, declaring themselves Canadian, and they were interned because of their origin and that Japan was at war with Canada. The slaughter reminded me of the wrongdoing done to the Japanese. The Canadian government has since apologized and compensated the Japanese involved. I believe we should get the same treatment, even after all this time, for destroying our way of life. If we started shooting down the airplanes, or any of the transportation that came around, it goes without saying the government would declare a war against us. But we have kept quiet until now. Certainly the government would wage war against us if we shot down their airplanes, which is their transportation method, much the same way they got rid of our dogs. Their reaction would probably be extremely harsh compared to ours. That was how helpless and hurt they made us feel when the dogs were wiped out. Those who had dogs have been silent about their anger for far too long. But today we are voicing our anger and hurt towards this dog butchering issue because that was our way of living and it was eliminated. My fellow Inuits' deprivation affected me deeply and made me realize that it is not the way to treat other human beings, whether they are English, French, or Chinese. To keep in mind that it is their culture and not try to change it. I don't go and order the Italians, Scottish, or others to change their way of life. It has made me appreciate different cultures.
Peter Adamy, Amalu George Berthy, Makivik.
Peter Adamy, Makivik's president, and George Berthy, Makivik's secretary, have been promoting the return of the dog team and to show the government people how the slaughter affected the Inuit. They know how deeply the best hunters got hurt, and they are still feeling it today. Let's have a look at the mushers of Ivaka.
The sun is rising onto Nunavik, but the bay in Huaktak is crawling with doubts. The worst of it is that we'll never know. Was it meant to control us better? To take over our space? Were we victims of a lobby? In the vastness of this land, still, we are seeking the truth in a summon for dignity. This butchery could have been thwarted, would have had to fight. So, little Mary, promise me never to forget, and in your turn, to tell. There are legacies one could well do without, but like tragic beacons, they guide us. They alert us and warn us. Of this ordeal, maybe you'll learn to resist if you are mystified.